Not too far. Come a long way in a short period of time. But as most of us, we all have dealt with a significant increase in security problems in general. Be it from any number of different attack surfaces, different areas, insider threats, all sorts of things. How many people here have too many security analysts? Or an overabundance of just people sitting around wishing they had a security threat they could look at? That's kind of what's been driving the SAO market. SAO stands for Security, Orchestration, and Automation. There's a lot of different groups, companies, and people that are trying to say they're an SAO. But this is going to kind of break down some of the basics on what SAO is and how you can use it and how it works with it. So a little bit about our setup. We have a little bit of everything common, kind of scattered all over the place to be vague. We're using them at the perimeter in the core. We're also using Autofocus for our threat intel and then aggregation. MindMeld is the actual aggregator. So we're pulling all of the intel that's in Autofocus into several different channels and then pumping it into the SIM, into the firewalls, etc. from there. We are managing everything with Panorama, and we're in the middle of our implementation with Travis. If you do have a chance to go to the demonstration that they had, it was actually a lot of fun. So, plus it's at the Hard Rock. Can't beat it. Drinks are on you again?
Drinks will be on us.
Twice a week. And then lastly, we're working on or towards Aperture. We've been kind of playing with different CASB solutions, looking to see what we're going to go with. But they're right now in the front for that. As far as our SAO of choice, we're using Swimlane. We've got a custom integration built out with them right now. And they're the core for our research, remediation, and case management. And our SIM is Logrythm. We're using both the SIM and the NetMon appliance. And we've been doing a lot of custom rules for working with UVA, IDS, kind of playing with all of the data that we pull in. We've all created a data lake. Most of us aren't very good at playing with the data lake or fishing in the data lake. And that's another part of what this all kind of helps to remedy, is the mountain of data that we have. So you have a whole bunch of data, different pings, different packets, different pieces of information, different protocols. It's a matter of sorting that into buckets and going from there. Now, most of what I do for US Acute Care is helping to form those buckets and get all the information where it's supposed to go. We do that by prioritizing indicators. Now, in abstract, an indicator is really vague. It could be anything. It can be an IP address, it could be a hash value, it could be a URL, any number of different things. But we're trying to enrich those from an IOA, which is an indicator of attack, which is usually just an isolated port scan. Traffic that looks malformed. Any number of things can be an indicator of an attack ongoing. Once you have that correlated with autofocus or whatever your threat intelligence solution of choice is, you can take it from there to an indicator of compromise. Once you actually have an indicator of compromise, you can start to look at it and say, okay, what was broken into? What did we lose? Who do I have to call? Do I have a job? All of the above, the important questions. But that's what we end up going to get to. So stepping backwards, now that we have indicators, it kind of explains what we spend our day doing, which is threat hunting. Hunting for threats on our network is, it's akin to looking for a blue blade of grass out here. If you don't have a tool to do it, you're probably not going to find it. And that's what a lot of Palo Alto's tools, a lot of custom tools, open source tools, are all dedicated towards trying to get that information out of your data lake and into a format that you can actually use it. So first you start with an IOE. You've got somebody at the perimeter, they're port scanning, they're doing something, whatever that may be. So you start with that piece of information, and you're going to correlate that with other pieces of intelligence. What's their IP address? Where are they coming from? Are they an advanced persistent threat? Are they another country? Who knows? But you're going to take that information, correlate it together in the SIM, normally, and pull it out from there, and kind of go down the eventual path. Now the problem is that takes time and manpower. Two things that are generally lacking in most people's security budgets. Most people are looking at their hardware. their software. But very few people are like, well, I need to hire 12 more people to look at this mountain of data that I've got that's sitting around and making my the C-level staff feel comfortable. And that's kind of where automation comes in. Because most of us, if we're honest, when we look at it and what we're currently doing, this is our equivalent of threat hunting. We're looking for the rabbit, it's not even the right season. We might find it, we might not find it, but we've got an 80, 70%, somewhere in there, and that's where we're acceptable. That level of risk we're okay with. But that's where automation comes in. So going backwards again. SAO, security automation orchestration. The biggest thing with any SAO platform is it's going to be your center point. It's going to pull multiple different indicators from multiple different sources, correlate and enrich that data, research it for you, pull back what information you can find, and then either alert you, or it's going to kick off a response and then alert you, and then it'll log. Kind of taking the place, somewhat, of an analyst. Now, the idea is not to eliminate the analyst from the equation, it's to make their job more linear. If someone has a process to follow, it's easier to find someone to fill that slot and make sure that there's a human involved than to say, here's a mountain of data, thank you, good luck. A little more retention with the secondary plan. So again, platform for cross-connect reactions, and it is a response to the static problem of trained available staff. So again, it's not to say that some systems are not made to work together or they're not made to react to things. A SIM can have, a perfect example, Logrythm advertises, their SAO, they like to say they can react. They can react to some things in certain ways, in certain lights. They can't research it. They can't restfully reach out to a different website, investigate it, return anything. Their notifications are based on consoles or emails. I mean, how many people here have a phone? How many people would like to be able to be alerted if something was seriously going down their network the moment it started going down on your phone? How many more people would like to be able to say, okay, I've got this notification, now I can two-factor in and shut off my network. Or I can two-factor in with my thumbprint and I can react to it. I can disable a user. I can use LDAP to shut down a computer. We can reach into any different area when you start getting into an SAO market. So again, not to bash any of the people that react, but SAO is a little bit bigger than just, we can react in some cases. And that's kind of where we go to an if this, then that engine. What I diagrammed here, it's a little small for me to read on that one. This is an example of some of the systems that we have linked into Swimlane currently. We have our switch network is actually Cisco, but all of our routing and perimeter is all Palo Alto. So we've got all of those different systems, Palo Alto Panorama, Autofocus, firewall, routing, Cisco, VMware, Active Directory, and in all of our external feeds, we've got a lot. I think we have 12 different intelligence feeds now feeding in. All of these different systems working together to kind of create the goal of finding a target that's actually a target. Not finding a target that might possibly be a target in the right light. And that's kind of where it all comes down to people. If you could take your brain, those of you who are in security, and put your thought process to a specific case, let's say a perimeter attack. So you've got an IP, and it's attacking you, and you basically have to take it from there. So now what you're going to do is you're going to take that information, you're going to say, okay, who is it? Me personally, I like DShield or Internet Storm Center. They're a very good first stop for an open source. There's other places you can go, but Internet Storm Center will give you a breakdown of who it is, what threat lists they're on, and how likely it is to be a threat. Now, with Internet Storm Center, they also have an API. So with this, imagine you take your case management that you're using today. I'm hoping that you have case management. It's not easy to find one that fits everything. But take your case management and imagine being able to insert into that the ability to have somebody research the way you would research with a button. the places you would research with the button, and have it return values into the places that you would want them written with that same single button. And the ability to take the entire form away and have it run itself, and just have somebody watching to see if it is doing what it's supposed to. That's kind of the idea. Now, going towards the Palo side, how many people here have used or worked with Autofocus? Well, you don't. Autofocus is, I'm trying to think of the best layman's way to describe it. It's kind of like the data lake, but it's for everybody's wildfire. Everything that's wildfire as far as IPs, hash values, indicators, you name it, they have it.
I think the best way I can describe it is it's like your looking glass into the data that's in the PAN-DB. So essentially, all the customers that are submitting data to Wildfire and submitting, patient zero files to Wildfire, it writes hashes and also logs like behaviors of like the files. So you can actually get insight into some of the files that you're seeing on your network and see what other people have, if they've encountered it before, or if you're like the victim of a zero day, you can see it here.
So this is Autofocus in its purest. When you first log in, you have a dashboard. Now through here, you can investigate a hash value, an IP address. You can send it something to detonate. If you don't know for sure if it's malware or not, you don't really want to open it on your computer, you can send it via API to upload and it'll detonate it there. But this is a very good source for threat intelligence. Now, the secondary to this is that it's also a good place to aggregate all of that information. All right, so when I use the word aggregate, it's a fancy word for saying gather together, basically. In this one, we're actually taking specific indicators in from malware, and we're trying to condense all of what Autofocus has into lists that we can actually search via indicators. You really can't search for a hash value on a network actively. It doesn't really work that way. But we can look for IPs, we can look for email addresses, and we can look for a lot of other pieces of information. And what MindMeld does, MindMeld's still free, by the way?
It is as a standalone open source product.
Which is free. So if you can't use it with other Stix taxi feeds, etc., it'll still work as an aggregator, but it won't have the autofocus side. But in working with it, sorry, I'm trying to grab it sideways a little bit unique.
I think you hold control and hit plus a couple times, so it might text bigger on your browser. Maybe it's hold control and you scroll wheel up.
Well, it's not going to let me from here. With my mouse. There it is. Okay. Close. This one. It's being started. Regardless, I actually have a slide of it on the show. I'll just go with that route. Okay, let's just get my mouse back. Oh, there's storm center. Oh, that's why. It's to the right physically, not electronically. Okay, so that touched a little bit on autofocus. Now, to automate that, to be able to use that proactively in the network. So you're going to take all of those and pull them in MindMeld. I'm using Logrythm. Any other SIMs of choice? Anyone?
We have ARC site.
Okay. Do you guys do Stix taxi feeds?
We have a stock and we use it.
Okay. Stix taxi is just a feed of numbers that have expiration dates. Long story short. Most SIMs have some sort of method for aggregating them in from some sort of feed. With that feed, you can have an active list of all of your threats, be it from DShield, ISC. There's at least 50 different independent open source threat feeds that are working towards 0 day. None of them are perfect. Like, well, the other day I had Apple on one. That made for a whole lot of noisy alarms. But they are a very good source to start with. So pulling those into your SIM is a good start. That's what we do. Now, we trust Palo Alto implicitly, but we want to make sure. So most of our rules, they'll go through and they'll double check even the firewalls. We know what the traffic is on the perimeter outside of the firewall, and we know what we have on the inside of the firewall. We correlate that information with what we have on threat feeds, and we watch to see what we have. Now, if we see communication with a threat list IP, we then listen on syslog for it to say, okay, that was blocked. If it's not blocked within a certain amount of time, we can say, well, there's a decent chance that that got through somewhere. And then that will trigger the remediation. Making sure that that traffic is tagged on the perimeter firewall to make sure it's blocked. And then alerting someone, hey, you might have had somebody come through. And then being able to research it from there. That's kind of how it works with autofocus, at least for us.
So how much of that process is manual versus what you're doing automatically? Like, where's that differentiation at?
95% is automatic, at least. The threat, all of the threat IPs, everything else comes in automatically. The system was set up, but other than that, it runs automatically. And it basically just opens a case, shows the information, checks for the information, checks to see that it was bounced, closes the case, files it away. Serves 2 points for that one. The nice thing is that number one, we all have to be accountable to somebody at C-level, and they're the people that write checks. So if you want more things, show them the threats that you're actually negating. They tend to be more receptive to, I need more of this or that, because bad guys. When the bad guys are invisible, when they're unseen, and you can't really, you can say, well, the perimeter firewall is blocking everything, but if they don't realize that there's an ugly storm on the other side of the actual, everything over there, nobody's going to want to spend it. They're like, everything's fine, it's working. I haven't had anything break in like at least 2 years. We're good. That's IT for you. When everything works, why do I pay you? When nothing works, why do I pay you?
Sounds familiar.
Right? So going through a couple, I just pulled some slides because it's not quite working well. This is another look at the autofocus. This one's actually at hash values. Another use case that we use, we have Barracuda doing a store and forward to our exchange. So all of our spam filtering comes inbound, goes back out. Well, while it's in that in-between stage, we hold it and then forward it. What that gives Wildfire enough time to do is scan it, send it, detonate it, and return it back. Guaranteed that if it's malware, it'll blow up in a Wildfire lab. So we've, not for Mike, we haven't had any malware come through email in years because of Wildfire. It's pretty much automated on that side. But all of that data.
How did you handle so when I've heard other people try and do that, the pushback that they get is, we need our email right away. How did you handle the user pushback for not having immediate access to email?
I didn't get to do it, but if it was me personally and they don't let me do those kinds of things, I'd look at them a little bit stupid and ask them how many seconds it would take for it to really make a big difference. Viruses, 5 seconds. You know, no viruses, wait 10 seconds. Usually we just don't tell people things like that.
Oh, just the email system's running a bit slow. Just
It must be
keep
slow.
on just refresh. And
You know what, if you guys would respect your mailbox size limitations, you know what?
Yeah.
It'd be faster.
Exactly.
There you go.
Instead of having that 10 gigs of,
Yeah.
you know.
You don't need to keep every email you've got
Right.
since you started with the company.
This is what I was trying to show you a moment ago. This is MindMeld and how it works visually. On the left-hand side, we have all of our nodes that are pulling in information. Different types of pieces of information. We've got threat intelligence, autofocus, and a bunch of open source. They're pulling into aggregators. The aggregators are combing through and filtering that data for IPv4 addresses, inbound addresses, domain aggregator, and URLs. So we're looking for second-level domains that are hostile. We're looking for specific entire domains that are hostile, and we're looking for IP addresses. And then we put that into Stix Taxi, which will then stream to your SIM or your IDS IPS, or anywhere else you want to at that point. And the nice thing about this system is it'll tag directly with your firewall. That's right. Nice thing about having that through them. Plus the price is exceptionally good, being that it's free. Not autofocus, remind me.
MindMeld's also nice in the fact you can just get a pre-built VM template and just
Right.
hit apply and you're done.
There
It
we go.
works.
OVA, drop it in, and it just works.
Yeah, Josh and I did it in like, I think an
Yeah.
hour total.
And there hasn't been a single instance where it's put anything into a list and it has been blocking something that shouldn't be blocked. And you can watch like on a ticket level, like security events going way down and staying down just from implementing this.
And what we did was we actually built NOS rules, policies that would block inbound and outbound on these lists.
Okay.
We also created a custom URL category to block the URLs, and then we also DNS sinkhole the domains that show up on those lists.
Gotcha.
And then we forward all of our NOS logs to our SIB, and if there's any activity on those policies, then our SOC knows that we blocked certain addresses or domains based on our intel feeds without them having to tell us, oh, you just got hit, it just blocked it without them having to.
Like, again, in speaking with C-level, I'm not a deceptive person, but I don't mind showing them things that will buzzword them into spending more money.
Yeah.
That's what it is. We just had WannaCry. One of the biggest avenues that WannaCry was using was Tor nodes. Well, how many of us have a list of Tor nodes in our back pocket? Now, the nice thing is that you can get a threat feed that has all your Tor exit nodes and Tor servers. Now, you auto block them, you correlate them, and now you can say the darknet attacked us X number of times. Those types of buzzwords at the C level, they understand, hey, look, bad things. Don't get me wrong, C level people are stupid, but they don't understand technology. You can say, hey, look, bad things are happening. More money. A sample of what it looks like once we pull it into Logrythm. I tend to like graphs. Noisy graphs tend to show you more data than you would imagine. I leave most of my overall graphs a lot noisier because spikes are easier to see. For example, we had over the weekend, one of the girls in graphic arts took her laptop home. Well, graphic artists and people in HR love templates. They love templates, always looking for templates, and they're free on the internet. Nothing bad about that, no worries. So anyway, they weren't infected with malware, but they had pups, lots of potentially unwanted programs, that as soon as they powered on our network, there was a spike of about 500 firewall denies. Now, firewall denies in their own, that happens. We've got geo-blocking, we've got all kinds of different things that are restricting people. So you tend to see a noisy graph of about 5 events, 10 events, 15 events. When she powered on her laptop, we saw 500 events, and it went back home. With that, you can actually see on the firewall what they're doing. I always feel like I have to explain why it looks so chaotic and noisy. A little demonstration of Swimlane. This is one of the analyst dashboards on Swimlane. This one's geared towards network response. This is just, again, a prototype. Now, retouching on my original topic, which was SAO. SAO turns your security plan into an if this, then that. If there's a bad IP, research it. If it's bad, then block it. Also notify me. Copy this person on there, and then send a report to this person. It can do that. If you wanted this system to integrate with your lights at home, RESTfully it could. If you want it to interact with a website, you could have it post to Twitter every time you're attacked. You could have it respond to Twitter input. Let's say for whatever random reason, you wanted to be able to control your firewall with Twitter. Bad plan, not a good idea, but if you wanted to, you could. RESTful APIs are in everything, especially in Palo products. That's one of the reasons we've gone a lot heavier towards Palo. But pretty much everything you use, be it Cisco, ArcSight, any number of products, they all have a RESTful API of some sort, unless you're Logrythm and you don't like building APIs. But all of the other ones have RESTful APIs. Now, with this one, this is a sample of one of the cases that comes through. It's automated, it gets assigned, it pulls the intelligence thread. Once it has the intelligence thread, it runs the integration. Again, Storm Center, reaches out to Internet Storm Center, and it returns what the IP is, the number of attacks it's been seen on, when it was last updated, how many other different threat lists it's on, and we can go from there. I'm sure you can think of about 100,000 different things you could do with a system if you could put your brain into it. And that's literally all it is it's a system that will make decisions like you do.
So can you, how is this different from when other people talk about SAO, they a lot of times talk about playbooks. How is this different from playbooks and some of the other things that you might have looked at that
We were my first love was Phantom. You probably heard of or used Phantom, maybe not. In SAO, we went to an Optiv event and we found Phantom. It was amazing. It was like everything was plugged in and everything did everything. You could pull anything out, you could go anywhere. I was in love the first time I saw it. I pulled the Logrythm guy over and I showed him and I was like, dude, look at this stuff. This is amazing. This is what you guys are supposed to be doing. This is amazing. Now, the downside. I just had a discussion with them about their case management side. I joked about case management because case management is probably the hardest thing for IT, security, server, network to actually conglomerate on. There's Trackit, there's all kinds of different systems, and most of them are somewhat customizable-ish. They have nuances and oddities, but we kind of just work through it. We deal with it. With this system, you can drag and drop your elements, put them wherever you want them to be, move things, change the sizes of it, have automated actions to fill in a field for you, or take a field value and change something else. So all of your case management is manipulatable within that same AI that's resolving your problem. So you can tell it to, as you're going along, what to fill in the paperwork, where, and why. Again, it helps to kind of corral people into the right process. If you've ever chased a thread on paper, it takes a lot more paper. And the problem with Phantom is that they have this ISO certified case management system that is about as humanly divorced from what it really means to hunt a threat versus what they have. That was my biggest problem. As far as that's why this part, they both do at the back end the same thing. However, Swimlane will let you integrate that into a case and user interface that is twice what they have, personally. Neither are bad though. I like both. Now this is kind of an example of Swimlane's workflow. It looks a little bit chaotic, but if you start at the left, your default actions will kick off as soon as it gets an event. So at the left side, it's going to make sure case is created. It's going to set the status field to new. It's going to set your time tracking so you know when you'd actually detected it. It's going to copy the time from the actual event to make sure it matches up so that way you know what time the event actually happened and how long it took to get to your aggregation source. And then hide field array on this one. You know what, I'm gonna try one more time to pull it up. Didn't like me last time, but maybe I like me better this time. It's easier to see. I apologize. I blame the internet.
Blame the users.
Right? It's gotta be somebody else's. There we go.
Always
Somebody
is.
else. Oh yeah. Well, for now, we'll just stick to this side of it. If you ever want a demonstration, I'd be more than happy to. Because as I said, it's easier to see. Okay. But yeah, going back to where we were. So you have different sections. You can drop in a section anywhere. Let's say you want a section for email remediation. You want a section for dealing specifically with a threat IP on the outside, dealing with an insider threat, a user threat. Any of these different sections you can build out and you can tell it to hide all of the different fields. So now you wait till it comes in and you quantify what type of alert it is. And then once you quantify what type of alert it is, you just expose the part of the form you want filled out. Like the integration, it'll kick off, and then the remediation afterwards. So from here, you can tell it, see where it says common event filtering, intelligence threat allowed event. That was the filter that I was just talking about, where it actually saw a threatless IP that was on the perimeter and not blocked. So what it's doing is it's saying that's what it was. So now it's taking off that part of the time automation. Because again, metrics are important. If you can show improvements on things, it makes people happy. But making sure you know how fast you can detect and how fast you can resolve, always important. You take it from intelligence to mitigation, and then you go into a mitigation type, be it automatic or manual, and it just keeps displaying what information you need as you go. That's in my section. But in recap, SAO is a if this then that engine that can connect to every system you own. Your phone, your computers, your servers, your Active Directory, Twitter, all of the above. And in whatever way you want it to, interact with all of the above.